So this is the Absolute One, a new cloud gaming handheld that began from a Kickstarter campaign. While the big boy competitors like the Logitech G Cloud and the Razer Edge definitely got all the attention, the Absolute has a wider global availability and costs just about $200. If you're anyway interested in these first gen cloud gaming handhelds, this crowdfunded product might actually be your best purchase right now. Like I said in my last video, for a cloud gaming handheld, the most important things are good controls, dedicated software, strong connectivity, and an accessible price. And the good news is that the Absolute One does get the job done. The Absolute strikes a very good balance between portability, quality, and comfort. It's at a really good size, much smaller than the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally, and only slightly wider and thicker than the Nintendo Switch. But unlike the Switch, the Absolute is comfortable to hold for long periods of time thanks to the textured back and these protruding grips. There are no grippy rubber materials here, and I do wish the grips here protruded a little more, but I think this was the right call since it maintains the ultra portability and it keeps the carrying case thin too. The carrying case comes with your purchase and it doesn't add much bulk to your everyday carry, which is great. This thing is plastic all over the place and the flat volume and power buttons at the top feel like they were cheaply 3D printed. And my unit seems to be slightly uneven as it rocks more when I tap on the right hand side, but the overall quality control has been pretty good. There's no creaking, no weird seams, comfortably lightweight, but it doesn't feel hollow and cheap. Even though this is a first attempt from a small team, it does feel higher quality compared to the plastic monster that is the original Nintendo Switch. The controls are also very solid, real sensitive triggers on the back, D-pad and buttons that you can press, not like those cheap little things on the Switch. However, like on Xbox, the shoulder buttons are shallow and clicky, but my one big complaint has to be the analog sticks. Like the PS Vita, they're a little too small and short, making them not the most precise or accurate, which can be a bit annoying for shooting games. And maybe because of the texture and the shape of them, the grip on these aren't great. Overall though, I'm personally very satisfied with the controls here. I play a lot of single player action adventure games, so it's just what I need. For the display, the Absolute has a 7-inch touchscreen LCD with 1080p resolution, 16:9 aspect ratio, and a 60Hz refresh rate. The 1080p resolution is sharp and the LCD is laminated so it doesn't look like a cheap display like the base iPad. The 16:9 aspect ratio guarantees full screen gaming, so the 7-inch display looks big in the hands and I don't feel the need to have a bigger display. Most cloud gaming services are optimized for 60 FPS gameplay, so the 60Hz refresh rate is perfectly fine. The display can get up to about 450 nits of brightness, and while that's not amazing, it does seem to suffer a bit in the sun. You're almost always going to play indoors, whether it be your house or at a coffee shop. For those use cases, it's perfectly bright enough, and I actually have it set to only about 80% most of the time. For an LCD, the colors are fairly vibrant and contrasty, and I don't get the sense that it's a washed out display. For the price, I'm very satisfied with the display on the Absolute, and in some cases with the stand, this can totally work as a tablet since you can download all your entertainment apps on here. The speakers, on the other hand, seem to have been the trade-off. While the volume is perfectly loud enough, the audio comes from these two tiny front-facing grills. Realistically, your thumbs will never get in the way of these, but if you do cover them, the sound will be completely muffled. On top of that, the quality on these are pretty distorted and they don't sound very good. But obviously, it's such an affordable device, and if we are making trade-offs, I think Absolute made the right call, sacrificing here instead of other areas. Plus, there is a headphone jack and Bluetooth, so you can connect headphones, which I do most of the time. Moving on to the software, the Absolute One is running Android 12 out of the box with a custom launcher. The custom launcher is very bare bones without many layers to it, but because of that, it's perfectly optimized for the Absolute's use case. There's a recent apps home screen, quick apps bar, and the settings. The UI is designed to be mostly used with the physical controls, but you can also use the touchscreen. The UX also defaults to using one app at a time, forcing your last app to close, so there isn't any room for multitasking here. As you probably know, Android is a memory hog, so it's the right choice for a device like this, and it helps the battery life as well. You can switch over to stock Android mode, or aka tablet mode, and you can access the notification center and get yourself some additional functionality, including split screen multitasking. But it does seem to be a little more sluggish than the custom launcher, and for a gaming device like this, I don't think you're getting too many benefits from being on tablet mode, but it's nice that it's there for you at any time. Since the Absolute's default settings can be a bit limited, you can access the stock Android settings at any time without changing to tablet mode. And of course, since this is running Android, you can install any app or game for the Google Play Store. All the cloud gaming services are perfectly compatible, and I also installed COD Mobile and some emulators on here. Just make sure to keep the Play Store on when you're installing large game files because it can sometimes close in the background. My only real worry about the software here is support. For such a small team, Absolute has already been very good about frequent firmware fixes and updates, which is expected when a product is just launching. But the security updates lagging behind on an Android device is something to worry about considering how many security vulnerabilities there are lately. There's no word on how often this will receive software or security updates or how many years this will be supported for. I hope Absolute can clarify on this soon on their website. Inside, the Absolute has a MediaTek MT8365 CPU, a Mali G52 GPU, 4GB of RAM, and up to 64GB of storage upgradable with microSD. These specs may sound very underwhelming, but since this is a cloud gaming handheld, it gets a bit of a pass on that, especially at this price. Really, the most important thing about the performance here should be the Wi-Fi connectivity. While the Absolute is not Wi-Fi 6 compatible and there is no 4G or 5G model, the connectivity strength and consistency have been super solid. Of course, it really depends on your own internet speeds, but for me, it's been a noticeably more consistent experience streaming here on the Absolute compared to my Google Pixel 7 Pro, and it's been just as consistent as playing on my Samsung M5 Smart Monitor. Cloud gaming services tend to scale down the resolution quite a lot when there are connection issues, and because the Absolute has a big 7-inch 1080p display, that can look kind of bad sometimes due to the worst pixels per inch, but I will say that cloud gaming looks much better here than it does on my Samsung M5. But yeah, very responsive cloud gaming here, and the lower end processor doesn't seem to negatively affect the experience at all. Now for Play Store games and emulators, it's a totally different story. Although games like COD Mobile are optimized for lower end devices, you'll be playing at around low settings and it's not the best experience. A lot of random stutters and the textures are just really ugly. This is consistent across all 3D native games that I tried with this chipset, which isn't great. Of course, there's a touchscreen so you can play any of your usual tablet games that you would usually play, and it's fine for that. But again, the Absolute isn't made for these use cases. For emulators, it's a very mixed bag, as you can expect. But thankfully, I've had a better experience with emulation than native games. PSP emulators thankfully did not have any issues since they don't have the most demanding games. This PSP emulator recognized controls immediately and mapping buttons was no issue at all. Of course, as emulation always is, you have to tinker with the settings to get it to be at an optimal level of visual fidelity and frames per second, but I found the performance to be on par with the lower end of mid-range Android phones, which is perfectly fine. As for Dolphin emulator for GameCube and Wii games, it was unfortunately a very bad experience out of the box. While the controls were not an issue, the performance was very stuttery on both GameCube and Wii games, practically unplayable. The Absolute does heat up in the middle area here, and I do see the performance slowing down fairly quickly if it's something intensive. Thankfully, your fingers won't touch that part while you're gaming, but I hope the next version can have some cooling solutions. As for the battery, the Absolute has a respectable 5200 mAh battery inside. The battery life here for cloud gaming is thankfully very good. I get a solid 6 to 7 hours of straight on game time until I was at around 20% battery life. As for native Android games and emulators, I saw around 4 to 5 hours gameplay time until the 20% mark. But since this is running Android, the standby time is not great. I've seen the Absolute be completely out of battery after not being turned on for about 3 days or so. But if you do play for about 1 to 2 hours per day, you'll just have to charge every other day, which is fair. The USB-C port can charge up to 15 watts, which is okay, getting it from 20 to 100% in a little over 2 hours. This is fairly industry standard, so I'm not marking it down for that. But the most annoying thing about the Absolute's charging is that you can only use a USB-A to USB-C connector. And due to power instability issues, Absolute highly recommends using the included cable and a 15 watt or less charging brick as to not overcharging the device. Overall though, I'm very satisfied with the battery life here. I just wish they could better sort out the standby battery life through additional firmware updates. Okay, so putting everything together, the Absolute One is my #1 pick out of these first gen cloud gaming handhelds right now. It's got great control, solid hardware, surprisingly stable software, strong consistent connectivity, great battery life, and around $200 is just the perfect entry price for this new market. Of course, it's not perfect. Being such a new company from a tiny team, you should think about the level and length of customer support as well as long shipping times. If you're not an early adopter in general, I say skip all these cloud gaming handhelds and keep to your phone and controller for now. As for you early adopter techies like me, I think the Absolute is worth a shot. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on the Absolute down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.